Hello, welcome back to the channel. Vic is grabbing a coffee. I have mine already. But we have a fun one for you today. We actually just celebrated our 5-year anniversary, which is super exciting and feels crazy that we've been married for 5 years. We're going to talk about 5 things that we've learned in our first 5 years of marriage. Before we dive into this, something we have talked about, we are not marriage experts. There are a million other points that we didn't decide to talk on today that are things that we are at the starting level of working on when it comes to our marriage. But what we did feel like these 5 things are things that are focus points for our marriage, things we talk about a lot, things we're passionate about, and things that we feel like, even though we're not perfect at it, that we can just talk a little bit about, and hopefully for you as a married person, engaged person, even a single person, you can kind of take these things, sit on them, think about it. So number 1 is bring God into the decision-making process.
We have made many decisions, like let's move across the world, let's move back across the world, let's move to another state, let's move home, let's get pregnant, let's have another one. Let's start businesses, all those things. And I think one thing that we're learning is that we are very multi-passionate people.
Absolutely, yes.
Which is a strength. It's not a weakness.
I say that proudly.
It can also be a massive negative if you don't involve God.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to say. I think that the strength is that we have a ton of passion and we have drive when it comes to our passions, but the weakness in what we found is not often are we quick to include God, even in the big decisions, which almost feels like, hello, duh, like big decisions, ask me about it. And we have gotten better over the kind of like second half of the 5 years, but I would say like the original big decisions like moving to Australia or things like that were very just...
Even getting married.
Yeah, which like is a whole story that I think we've told on this channel before. Asking a couple months before our wedding, like, God, I don't even think I've asked you if I should marry Jacoby, and there's a whole God story in that is amazing, and thank you, Jesus, that He does have grace, that we include Him in the last minutes or like, you know, the final seconds of these decisions. But yes, I would say that's a huge one.
Yeah, I think we also had like a little asterisk next to that that said like, even if you think it's too late, like even if you've made the decision, like for us, we made the decision to get married and we're like, well, it's kind of too late to ask God, but like we still did. And I will say like it was the most like terrifying but also the best decision we could have made. And then there's been many decisions that we have not included God in, and we've just kind of pulled the trigger and did it, and we've like been a couple months down the road after the like passion has left, and we're like, crap, that was a decision that like we didn't ask God.
Absolutely. Something else that you've brought to my attention, I don't remember, I think it was an author or someone that you listen to like that follows Jesus told you about how they include God even in the small decisions, like even in like what feels mundane.
It's as small as like, should we commit to going to this small group? It's like once a week, but like asking God, like, do we have the capacity to do that?
Yeah, that's a great example.
Or even, there's so many examples we could give, but that was a huge one for us, and a huge one that we will continue to take into the rest of our marriage, because we've made one too many decisions without God. I'm sure we will make more, and thankfully His grace is sufficient. But we plan on making more decisions with God, literally saturated throughout the whole thing. From start to finish.
And I will say this, in like that point, it's also beautiful how many times that we come back and we say we're in the middle of decisions currently in our life that we made without consulting God. And He has been so kind to like meet us in those decisions. Even though we're walking through like what feels difficult, it's like He still showed up in the middle of that. And that has been amazing. But I think what we're trying to get out here is like bring Him into the process of making decisions, and that has been something that has been very valuable for us. Number 1 is bring God into the decision-making process, and number 2 is expect and embrace one another to change. This is something that has been the past year huge for us.
And it has not been an easy one.
Definitely.
It was like the
Lots of
hardest
fights.
lesson. The hardest lesson for us.
Tears, honest conversations.
Honest conversations with each other, with trusted friends. Honestly, I can say you have to embrace it.
Yeah.
If you don't embrace the change, you'll just start to resent each other. I think I was talking to my mom about this, and she was like, imagine if I was still married to the person that I married. She's talking about my dad. Imagine if I was still married to that same person now. And I was just like, whoa, yeah, that like wouldn't, that wouldn't, obviously that person was great and that's who she fell in love with, but at the same time, like who he is now is an even better version of himself. And I think it's hard to see that whenever you're in the midst of it.
Absolutely.
Even though like I could still see, this was specifically, Jacoby has had so much change over the past 5 years. I have too, but I feel like your passions, like everything about you internally and externally had changed. And for me, I think I like spent a lot of the year just like fighting bitterness and fighting like, who the heck did I marry? But after like having those real, honest, vulnerable conversations with one another, we learned like, one, it's better to expect change, and two, it's better to just embrace it. Now I'm on a journey of learning how to embrace the new Jacoby and like how to love him where he's at and how he can love me where I'm at because I've changed too, you know?
Yeah. What's amazing is 5 years, as I said at the beginning of the video, feels like an eternity, but like we still have so much life to live. And so I think right now what I'm seeing is, okay, I might be the person that's going through the change in our marriage right now, because change can happen at the same time with both of you, or like in our example right now, it's just me. But what it's doing in our marriage, we're having the opportunity, and we're not gonna get it right every single time, but to lay the foundation for when this happens again.
Because it will.
And when Victoria is the one going through major change, like I want our marriage to have the season and the maturity to say, we've been here, let's recognize it, and let's give each other grace for when we're changing, but let's figure out, okay, where's God in that? Like, where do we feel like our marriage is called to, the direction of our marriage, the vision of our marriage, which we'll talk about in here in a minute, but it's laying the groundwork for when we will change continuously. And I think it shows us how we can embrace it as we go. This has been a big one because it's been kind of the first big change for one of us as an individual, but it'll happen again, and we're trying to do our best at taking it and grab it and be able to lay a framework for when it happens more and more throughout our marriage. But I definitely agree.
And being excited for each other to change. I spent a lot of time just like wishing that things would look the same as they did whenever we first got married. But like as I've learned how to embrace this version of you and us, our marriage has gotten lighter and like more fun, and we were able to focus on new things, and I'm able to learn and grow and all of those things. So that's our second point. Number 3 is contend for what you care about.
And the reason we put this one in here is because, and I think this is where it gets honest, we are very good at contending for what we care about, even when it hurts. And that's why it's been highlighted in our life, is because we've experienced quite a few times through our life where we knew in our heart specific things that we cared about were non-negotiable. And even if it would have promoted us or moved us ahead or gave us more attention or anything that feels positive, we're sacrificing that because we knew what we cared about. And we've had many examples of that, to where I think the word that keeps coming to mind is like countercultural. So like what we were a part of that we just wouldn't back away from. And in the moment, y'all, that is hard. Even to the point to where you're like, am I doing the wrong thing right now?
An important point with that is to contend for the things that you care for, but also the things that you know Jesus cares for. So for us, that looked like contending for our family, contending for rest, contending for our marriage. contending for the pace of life that we knew that God had called us to. It sounds like such small things, but those little things that we chose to embrace and chose to prioritize. Because of that, we know that there's going to be long-lasting fruit.
Yeah, absolutely. I recently had an opportunity come to me that I can do something I'm really passionate about. But talking with Vic, I went to that person who brought the opportunity to me and I said, these are my non-negotiables. And they included the proximity that I have to my wife and my kids, how consistently I get to be with them. I won't waver in those things. And they were things that could have conflicted with the opportunity, and that person heard those and they said, we can accommodate to that. And I think that's an example in your life to where something seems so good and you want to give to make sure you receive it, but it's there's things in your heart that you know that you care about, and it's you have to contend for those things in your life.
It would be so easy to just say yes to open doors or say yes to everything that comes in front of you, but making sure it's God's best for you, and also the thing that you actually care about. If everything else were to fall, if this opportunity were to fall away, or if this door was closed, would you still have what you care about most? And I think that's what we learned. When everything else hits the fan, do we still have what we care about? And what we contended for? And I feel that's something that we learned really hard, and it was such a hard season to walk through, and we're still healing from it, and I think we will continue to heal from it for a long time, but at the same time, we now know what it means to actually be strong and have a foundation that is unshakable.
Number 4, this one's more practical than the first 3, but it's something that Vic mentioned earlier when we were putting together this video. It's changed our life.
It has.
Number 4, we wrote down here, get real about your finances. Towards the end of 2021, we have friends in our life that started getting really vulnerable to us about their progress they've made with debt in their life, and the discipline and the consistency that went into that. And obviously, tackling debt, if anyone watching this is in the process or is doing, is hard.
It is.
And our friends were really vulnerable with that. But what that conversation did that I don't think they realized is we got in the car leaving that night, and it was a turning page for me with our family and our finances. 2 things that I found through this that's really valuable is have people in your life that inspire you in that area. People. Yeah,
those same friends, they tackled their debt in a year. And they inspired us so much.
Absolutely. And those same friends are the friends that we go to and have vulnerable financial conversations with outside our family. And that's so valuable because you can be real and be honest, and then you can encourage each other through that. And I think the second person in your life when it comes to finances is have someone in your life that has, I'll use the term a little bit further along the journey. But someone that you look up to and has wisdom when it comes to finances. And we had someone in our life that we trusted as just being wise counsel to our finances.
He actually married us.
So shout out Wakefield.
Yes.
But he is someone that this conversation looked a little bit different because this was full transparency. Talking numbers. Put it all out there, air it out, show them this person where you're at, and just allow them to...
They saw our debt, our expenses, how much we were spending on eating out, how much we were spending on shopping, how much we were spending on all the weird subscriptions that you randomly build up over time.
And allow them to speak into your money habits. I've found that those 2 people are very essential to the financial independence and journey that we wanted to be on. Those 2 relationships, among many others, were super essential. But do you want to talk a little bit about how our marriage specifically has been changed through our financial transparency?
Everybody has a background whenever it comes to finances in general. So for me, I think when we got married, finances really just stressed me out. Not knowing where my money was going or how much money we had. And that was partly because we had very unstable jobs. we didn't really know what to expect month to month.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we started our marriage, and so I think we just kind of like lived by faith / like lived carelessly because we didn't really know what else to do.
Yeah.
And so whenever we started bringing our financial goals to our friends and to Wakefield, we were able to partner with them and kind of just look at what we have and what we don't have and make a plan for what we want and what we desire.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so this past year we like hit our first financial goal, and it was so amazing.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
Oh, great.
I feel like we've learned how to like conquer the fear of finances.
Yeah, for sure.
And this season we're stepping into a little bit less financial blessing in a sense. I'm gonna stop working as much for a season with having baby girl come. And so now it's like relearning how to budget with a smaller budget, but also like, okay, how do we trust God now with our finances in this season?
Absolutely.
I think it's something we're always gonna be growing in. Be real and be vulnerable and be authentic about like what you're feeling, what you're fearing, what you hope.
Yeah.
All of the things.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, then you're just going to be like, I'm afraid to look at the bank account, I'm afraid to look at anything. But like whenever we know what we're going after or we have a budget in plan or in place, there's like no room for fear.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's brought us so much freedom to just be vocal, honest, and then also hold each other accountable and have our friends check in on us and cheer us on as we've gone after our goals.
Absolutely. And I want to end this point with saying two things that I think are super valuable. One, comparison is a thief. If you are starting or in the middle of and doing great with your financial journey, comparison is a thief and he's a punk. And do not let that in your marriage when it comes to finances in any way. Or in your own personal journey when it comes to finances. Don't look left to right. Your financial freedom, if we want to use that word, is about you and your goals and what brings you contentment. The second thing is don't serve money. Like God is God, He will provide, and even when things feel stable, I feel like almost that's when it becomes even more simple to allow like money to become like what you're chasing, even if you don't realize it. Even when things feel good and they feel stable and you're crushing goals, remember like God is the provider. And I think for us, like through a year of meeting our goals in this area and doing well and talking about it and celebrating, it's reminding each other ultimately like God has brought us here. And we could not be in this place without Him. And where we're at is where we're supposed to be, and looking to the left or the right is not like our story. But I wanted to end that with those 2 points is because I think like those two things can become very easy. Our last point is one that has been like a banner of our marriage. We put vision is essential to marriage. I recently just posted on Instagram, we went on our baby moon and our 5-year anniversary trip to Cancun, which was beautiful. But in the caption, I talked about how this past year was the first year in our marriage that we coexisted and didn't have vision. And that was as dry and boring and like exhausting and distancing as anything I've experienced in marriage so far. And it's so crazy how that I genuinely believe can be pinned on not having any vision in our marriage, right, for our life. But it took a year for us to say, hold up, like this is awful.
It's not how we want to live. And not how we have ever felt called to live. It was so weird. I feel like we, for the first time ever, had a very rhythmic pattern in our life. Predictable, we knew what to expect. And life became mundane. There's a verse in the Bible that talks about how where there's no vision, the people will perish. That's been like our verse since the beginning of our marriage that we've really like tried to remember and to hold on to throughout our marriage.
Definitely.
And the fact that it like so easily just got away from us this past year was really alarming. And
shows how easy it can be.
It shows how easy it can be. I remember we were sitting in a church service and Christine Kane was speaking, and she was talking about how when you're on the in the ocean, if you just stand in the ocean, you'll eventually just like start to drift. And she basically was like, you don't have to do anything to drift.
Yeah.
Which is like I think what we did.
Exactly.
Our life just like began to drift, and it wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It just like was. Ugh.
It was just.
It's just like.
Yeah.
It just wasn't fun.
But it's crazy because like, you even said like it wasn't good, it wasn't bad, but like I would even say that looking at it, it was good.
Like how?
Like I would just say that like if you were to just look at our previous year on paper.
Oh, like from the outside.
Yeah, like out to in, it's just like that's a good year.
Yeah.
Like.
And even there was times like for us looking from the inside out, we were like, this is good.
Like what are we
why
upset
are
about?
we upset? You know. But I think the main reason we were upset is because we were living with no vision. Like we were doing our day to day, having a good life. We were excited about where we were at. We were so thankful for where we were at. But also we just like became so like.
Yeah, like we just looked inward.
Like, let's protect our family. Let's
provide
for our family. Let's heal. Let's do the things. Let's do the hard work that we needed to do internally. And honestly, I just think that we became so vision oriented that like our vision for the world and what we're passionate about and the people that we're passionate about and church that we're passionate about and all of the things, like we just lost that. And like whenever we started to talk about it, I feel like there's like a little glimmer in our eyes again.
Absolutely.
Like there's like hope that we're looking forward to and like things that we're passionate about and people that we want to serve and all the things.
Yeah, it's like vision is a lifeline to our marriage.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a lifeline to all marriages. And vision looks so different for everyone. Meet with your person or meet with yourself in Jesus and say, God, like, what do you want for my life? And like, what do you want for my life? Big picture and small picture. Like, give your
day to day.
Yeah, like give yourself vision.
5 years from now, like it's just important to wake up knowing who you are, what you're called to, the God you're serving, the people that you're serving. Whether that just be your little ones, like, or that be as a pastor at a church, or as an influencer and all the people
leading
that you're
business.
talking through. Entrepreneurs. There's so many realms of life that people lead and need vision for. It's not just your marriage, but if you have it for your marriage, you will also just like, your marriage will excel.
If you feel like right now watching this, your life is good, and you're like, I've never really had vision for my life, I challenge you to take what you know to be good and connect it to a vision for your life, and just watch how your perspective and your passion and everything around what you're doing becomes more purposeful. I think like that's what I'm trying to get at, is like things can be good and they can be going in the direction that you feel like it's progressing great, but maybe there's not like a vision attached to it. And I think once you grab that and put it to what you're doing, everything just becomes more purposeful, and it becomes more like weighty in your spirit, and like that's like what we're trying to get at, is like we're not trying to drastically change our day to day, because like I mentioned, it's good.
We love our life,
but our day to day isn't attached to what we feel like we're moving towards, and that being the vision. And so I think like vision is essential to marriage, yes, because it gives you and your spouse and your person like this, like we're doing something that we feel called to.
We're moving towards something. We have a common goal, a common just like knowing that we're walking in what God has called us to.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do want to say, like Jacoby said, we don't have all the answers, even for our marriage and our vision. We still don't really know. Like we couldn't pinpoint this is what we're going after.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're praying that God would give us clarity. And if you're in that place, like, just know, I think it's normal. I don't think He always gives you like word for word what you're supposed to go after. Maybe He does, but we have not received that yet. And if you do, God, we would like that. But if you've been there, you're not alone. And like, just know, whenever you attach yourself to God's vision, you will I don't know, you will just find yourself in the grace zone of God.
Yeah, those are our 5 things. We love marriage, and these are 5 things that are just highlighted in our marriage that even in these 5 things that we highlight, we're not perfect at.
Nowhere near.
We just wanted to take the time to talk about them because 1, I think we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And 2, I hope you did too. And I hope that maybe there's a little something in there that you took away. But yeah, we love you guys.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for being our friend and coming along this journey with us.
Yep.
Yes, that was our 5-year recap. 5 things we learned.
Yep.
There's so much more than that as well. But that's what we felt like
Yeah.
God wanted us to share.
Love you guys. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Cheers.